Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm here to do a couple of asks. But before I get to that, I'm actually going to say another few words about the previous episode of Dead City. I gotta tell you guys, I had a really crazy busy weekend and I was feeling a little under the weather, and I only got to watch it once. I still have not rewatched it. I'm going to try before the next episode comes on again, but I really didn't feel like I had caught nearly everything. And so I've had a few people send me things that they caught that were spot on, that I just was way too, not on my A game to catch. So, I had said, if you listen to that Dead City video, that, I thought Negan figured out somewhere in there about Tony, and that the walker, quote unquote walker, that Bruegel was using was actually a human. So the first one I'm going to read is a comment from April Robin. Thank you for your comment. She said, when you rewatch, you will see Negan lock eyes with Tony when he is stuck on the arena fence. There is fear in Tony's eyes because he knows Negan's walker is coming up behind him, and Negan looks shocked because he realizes that's a living human. Okay? I'm thinking I was probably writing notes or something and just didn't catch this part. Because I remember the part where he was on the fence and Negan was looking at him, but I didn't catch any of that nuance. So that's why Negan shoves him off so he can save himself, and also what he whispers in Bruegel's ear, that he knows how he's cheating. Agree that Bruegel is a great character, quite funny, hope he sticks around. So thank you for that. I will go back and watch that because I actually do want to see it myself. So thank you for sending that in. The other one is from WD Way, my TD buddy, right? And I've said this before, I'm more about character arcs and symbolism and foreshadow and that sort of thing. I don't always see, visually what's in the scene, but WD Way is a visual artist, and so she's really good at picking up colors and shapes and things in the background and stuff like that. So, let's see. So I'll start with this. She says, I would like to add my thoughts as to why Bruegel was so quick to make concessions after Negan whispered in his ear and turning down the winning prize. Bruegel and Negan are now partners in their secret, and we might see this being useful to align against the Croat and the Dama in the future. I actually love that idea. The other thing I realized made Bruegel to forfeit so quickly is if Christo had found out about the Tony Walker, then Bruegel would have to forfeit the museum and all the goods he had won in what was thought to be an honest win between two walkers. I think Bruegel was more concerned about the reaction Christo would have than any fear of the Croats or Dama. So if you remember, I don't even think it was last episode, I think it was episode 1, we saw that they were, they had this arena and they were fighting walkers, and Bruegel won against Christo's walker, so he took control of the museum. That was the prize he got. That's what she means. So he doesn't want to lose what he's got, and we saw in this episode he's very proud of having that museum and everything that's in it. He's walking around, strutting around like a peacock, right? So I think, I absolutely think she's right about that. And Christo is an interesting character. I mentioned, everything that went down in the church with him and with Negan, and his name does mean Christ, so it's super interesting. And then WD Way also talked a little bit about the driver, driver, quote unquote. It was the walker that was in the Rockaway towing truck. Here's my light bulb moment on why the powers that be had Negan choose the driver from the Rockaway towing truck. The smaller tow truck walker against the large, more powerful walker was a play on the story of David and Goliath. In the Bible story, David wins the battle against the more powerful Goliath by using his best resource, his cunning. David turns down the sword and armor that was offered to him and instead used a slingshot with a stone, or you could call it a rock, to take down Goliath. That's an excellent insight. I didn't think of that at all. Of course, where did Negan find this David Walker? In the Rockaway towing truck in the middle of the road near the museum. The last thing Daryl ever said to Beth in trying to escape the funeral home was that he would meet her in the road. And in S4, Daryl found a jasper stone or rock in the road. So remember how last time I was saying we'd seen a lot of evidence of the rock in the road being tied to Beth? This is what I mean. I really wasn't being able to pull it to memory when I was making that video. But yeah, this is definitely what I'm talking about. And WD Wade just nailed it. What a lot of this that we've seen in the past, a lot of this evidence is. As you mentioned in the video, in Season 7, Episode 9, Rock in the Road, Rick told the story of the girl carrying beer to market, breaking a wagon wheel on the rock in the road. She dug up the rock, and underneath she found a bag of jewels. On the third day after his crucifixion, Mary found Jesus' tomb empty with the rock or stone rolled aside. In 5-2 Strangers, in Father Gabriel's office on his desk was his open Bible and a stone or rock sitting nearby. I think we saw that stone too at Bob's death. I remember talking about the stone on the desk, but I think it's the same one because he died in Father Gabriel's church. That same room had a wooden carving of the Last Supper, and I talked about in the video how the table they were all sitting at Bruegel's was like a Last Supper reenactment. Going back to the story of David and Goliath, it is a story that tells us that strength isn't always about size, and that sometimes what appears too small and weak can defeat something or someone that seems to be the undefeatable. So then she had another light bulb moment during the video when I mentioned mirrors in the episode, and that was used to reflect and bring more light into rooms. Another nod to Beth's symbolism from the story of Snow White. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? Snow White. So mirror equals light, and Snow White or Beth is the light in the dark. Remember, Norman said that a lot, that Beth was Daryl's little light in the tunnel. Snow White ate the poison apple, and New York City is often called the Big Apple. In Dead City, New York City is a rotten and poisonous city. So yeah, great insights. Fantastic. I believe there was one more I wanted to read. Let me see if I can find it. Oh yeah, okay, so Book Queen Rules also had some thoughts on this. Rockaway Towing, she says, the name reminds me of the Jesus resurrection story. When Christ is resurrected, the stone or rock has been moved away from the tomb, so more than one person picked up on that. The number 18 on the truck is a callback to 18 Miles Out. I totally did not even notice the 18 on the truck, so great call. Which is Beth's suicide attempt episode. It's also the episode where we see the most interaction between Maggie and Beth. That's interesting because this is all about Maggie, right? Dead City. Interestingly, everything Beth predicts when she is trying to convince Maggie to commit suicide with her actually does happen. Another prediction of sorts is made by Andrea about Beth to Lori. She says sarcastically that Lori should promise her, Beth, that one day she will have a husband, a baby, a little boy, and a boyfriend, just like Lori. I think we will eventually see some kind of fulfillment when Beth returns. This sequence with the tow truck really seemed to be Beth-coded. Additionally, at the Last Supper meal, not only was the full-grown carrot prominent, but Bruegel loudly asked for more carrots, which I think is intentionally pointing the carrots out to those of us who are looking for such things. It ties that sequence of scenes to Beth even further. I am sure each piece of artwork has meaning as well. I haven't had the time to really research them, but I did take a look at a couple of the pieces. I only looked at 2 of them, but I discovered that neither are housed at the Met, so they were chosen specifically for a symbolic purpose. There was certainly some very interesting symbolism in this episode. So yes, thank you for that. All great, great points. And I did not get a chance to look too much at the paintings either. We'll see if either W.D. Way or Galadriel Jones gets around to researching them. I don't think I'll have time either. But yeah, I really like this, and I agree with everything you said. Remember that the carrots, I talked about the King of Carrot Flowers, the song that Gimple wanted, but carrots also have a 2-year growing season. So you have the first year where they're immature, and then the second year is when they're like full grown, and that's when they get harvested, I believe is how it works. So that was also, I think, a way for Gimple to, suggest that we were just in the first phase of Beth's arc, and this was when both she and Daryl, in various ways as characters, were not as mature as they eventually would be, but when she comes back, she'll be in the second phase. And then she'll be, she'll have grown a lot as a character, and, we can see how much Daryl has grown since then. So I think it was a hint at that she would go away, come back, because most plants, we think of them as growing for 1 season and then being harvested, but you actually have to leave carrots for 2 full years. So it's like there's 2 rounds before they reach their full potential. So yeah, it's interesting that they specifically, he didn't say more rat, I want more rat. He said, I want more carrots. And, is that a hint that the second season of the carrot is just around the corner? I don't know, but I hope so. So yeah, thank you so much for those, and thank you for your insights and for helping me with that. I really appreciate it. All right, let's go now to your asks. Let's try and get a few of these answered. Let's see here. Okay. Granny TWD, how you doing? Appreciate your review of episode 4. Liked the episode and the more obvious symbolism in this one. Very curious to know how the lady villain has a hold on Herschel. Maybe it's her false sense of caring or the fact that she is undermining Maggie's love for him. Regarding the champion fighter, it seemed when Negan grabbed him after the battle and pulled him close, he looked into the walker's eyes and became aware it was in fact a human. The whispering from Negan was possibly sharing he knew there was cheating using the human with faster reflexes, and threatened to reveal this, so the bad guy changed his tactics about the methane and partnering with the group, playing nice. I was really pleased to see the George Washington painting pop up. Interesting, coinciding with our Memorial Day. Yeah, 100%. Thank you. Yeah, and in terms of her hold on Herschel, yeah, I think we've actually seen most of it. She's just manipulating him. You got to realize that Herschel is very young, so he doesn't have a whole lot of experience dealing with manipulative people. And then there's the fact that he doesn't feel very seen by Maggie or his community. And so when he does feel seen by someone else, even though, like, we know it's fake, that's a powerful experience for him, and he is going to be swayed by it. So I always think it's funny that viewers can be very cavalier about this sort of thing. You know, we just want to bop him over the head and be like, what are you doing? You know, don't be an idiot. But you got to understand his age and his experience. You know, he doesn't have the maturity and experience that most of the viewers have who are yelling at him, right? So yeah, I think there might be more that we don't know, and she actually has something specific. It'll be interesting for sure to see what it is, but I think a lot of it can just be that she's, like you said, she is undermining Maggie's love for him. She's manipulating him. She's saying, you know, even if your mom doesn't appreciate you, I do. And unfortunately, he seems to be believing her up until now. So yeah, it will be interesting to see how everything plays out. So yeah, thank you for the ask. I just love theorizing about all this and watching your videos. So thinking about Daryl Dixon season 3 and a possible return of Beth, I don't think we should get our hopes up that we will see her much in the actual season, though I'm sure there will be lots of callbacks, foreshadowing, etc., and probably more overtly than has been done to this point. If we see her at all, I think it will just be in the last episode, possibly last scene of the episode, and likely something shot on a studio lot. The reason being is they've just kept this so buttoned down for so long that with any return of the character, they absolutely can't risk Emily being spotted filming anywhere prior to her big reveal. Once that reveal happens, then she can finally openly film. But since filming of season 3 is completed and she was never spotted on set, I think one scene is probably what we're going to get in season 3, and then a long wait till season 4. Haha. Yeah, it could be. And I've wondered if, because I've said from the beginning that the point of the Daryl Dixon spinoff is to help him find his soulmate, which obviously we believe will be Beth. So yeah, it could be that he just kind of finds her at the end of something or something like that. But I mean, at the same time, like, let's say that it does go 4 or 5 seasons. If we only were to see her in the final episode of that final season, I mean, we wouldn't get much of the relationship and the way that it grows. And I kind of think in order for it to be called a happy ending, we do have to see that. So, yeah, I mean, I think you're right. If we're going to see that in a season or 2, you know, I mean, like, if they're going to give us 2 seasons, for example, to show the relationship growing, then we might just see her at the end of one season, and then they can film more openly the next season. So, yeah, I totally agree. But there's also the missing scenes from season 5, and those are going to be so much fun to see because they really were filmed back in season 5. So we're going to see all of the characters as they were in season 5, and then of course we're going to be getting information that we haven't had up until now. But I also think, you know, we've talked about maybe them showing us those things right before they reveal her, and I do think that that's something they could do, but there's going to be a lot of people who are going to guess what's going to happen from that, so it would probably make more sense to reveal her and then show the backstory, but I don't know. We don't know how it's going to play out, but either way, I'm here for it, and I'm excited for it, so yeah, thank you for your ask. Natural Blue says, yay, glad you're back. This is from a few weeks ago when I was gone for a while. Okay, so let's go to the next one. This one's kind of long. It's possible I'm just losing my mind, but before episode 2 started, Dead City season 2, there was a montage teaser or trailer of the spin-off shows in TWDU, and the end of it was like, and now Daryl Dixon S3, which went into scenes that have already been released, but at the end of that teaser, I'm positive it showed Rick and Michonne on a boat, new scene not previously released. Anyway, I was just like, I was like, what just happened? And then I couldn't go back and rewatch it. It disappeared, the whole clip. I originally watched on AMC, so then I tried Prime. Sure enough, if you watch the season 1 recap with the season 2 trailer, then it automatically rolls into another clip, which is the montage trailer. I saw it again, but I screwed up and I didn't pause it in time. I was trying to, but the clip ended immediately, and then just like what happened on AMC, the same experience on Prime. It disappeared and I couldn't rewatch it. It is such a mystery. I can't find the clip anywhere. I only wanted to be able to confirm it if it was in fact meant for Daryl Dixon season 3, or if maybe I misinterpreted it and it was just showing another frame from The Ones Who Live and why the sorcery of it disappearing. Honestly, the only reason I've given this any energy is because, as you know, with The Flash, TWD likes to hide images, and I accidentally stumbled across a hidden frame in the DDS3 trailer that came out last week. It's at the end, right at like 18 seconds, 18 miles out, anyone. I can't tell what it is, to be honest, other than the frame of the motorcycle and maybe a person's leg knee with the number 3 etched into the fabric. It's displayed similarly to how the 3 appears in black marker on the map, kind of jagged, but since I stumbled across it, it wouldn't surprise me if there are some hidden clues in the other teasers. Okay, I digress. The last thing I want to mention is that at the end of Dead City 202, when Maggie is having that nice bonding moment with Herschel, I'm pretty sure she's in shock because she thinks Herschel started the tire fire to signal the Croat, meaning he's in on it. So she's like, wait, what? And then he comes over and gives her a big hug, and she's just breaking down inside. This is my interpretation. Of course, it could be totally wrong. Thank you so much for your feedback. Okay, so again, you guys, I'm sorry I haven't gotten to these earlier. Like, this is one I probably should have answered before episode 4 came out, but I'm really behind on these. I'm struggling to catch up. So let's go over these. Yeah, I couldn't say for sure about this montage. I do think I've seen it. Like, I remember seeing one that showed the different shows and then just said now Daryl Dixon 3, but I didn't notice the boat with Rick and Michonne that you're talking about. I would assume that was probably a Ones That Live thing, because I feel like, I don't know, I'll have to watch it. It seems like I've seen it more than once. Like, if they're still running that promo, it'll probably show up again next week, you know, or whenever. So I'll keep an eye out for it and see what I can find. But I would kind of assume that it's probably, I wouldn't jump to the conclusion that Rick and Michonne are going to be in Daryl Dixon season 3. I would love that. I mean, I'm sure everybody would love that, but I'm very wary of assuming that, because that would be a big deal. That would be something that they would not want to spoil at all on a promo. So it makes me think that's probably not a thing. So I don't know, but I will be on the lookout for that. I did notice, I think I read one of your asks, you know, or you sent it to me in a message so that I could see the picture. And yeah, it is, I'll see if I can find it so that I'm posting it with this video. It's a picture of, it is like Daryl's leg, like his knee, and it's showing him like, you know how, I don't know, I don't know motorcycle terminology, but when they use their leg to kick and that's what starts the engine of the bike, I think that's what he's doing. So it shows him get on his bike, and then it just shows his leg as he kicks, and that like turns the bike on, and it's right before it shows that like, I like to call it a tournament, a bicycle tournament, because him and the other guy are riding toward each other on bicycles and then like trying to knock each other off the bikes, right? So it's really cool. It's like a medieval tournament, only it's in the desert on bicycles, and I'm actually really excited for that. That seems super cool to me. Whoever came up with that, kudos, you know, that's awesome. But it has to do with that. So I'm pretty sure it's just him starting his motorcycle. But I mean, I also think you're right in that, why are they including that? And I didn't notice that there was a 3. So if there's a 3 there, then that's super significant that they're putting that in and they really want us to notice that 3. So, I know that that's what it is. As to what it symbolizes, I'm not sure, other than the obvious, you know, rule of 3s and everything. But I'm excited to watch that scene and look at the context and see what else is there. Like, what is that about? You know, so that's I think, going to be really fun. And then, yeah, I kind of talked about this a little bit in Dead City, that another thing I didn't quite put together, but other people did, that she thinks he started the fire, which I 100% think that he did. It's looking that way. And in this last episode, what we saw is Maggie very much being in denial about it. Even though she saw that and she knows that, she is not willing to listen to Negan when he tells her not to trust Herschel. So that can't be good, and it's really sad. I hope they can work it out. If not, Maggie's in for some heartache here. Like, this may not end well, and that's not great. So anyway, thank you so much for the ask. I really appreciate it. And let's see. Next one. Have you seen the official episode 2 poster of Dead City? Here's the link. It is entitled The Sounds of Rebellion Have Begun, and it features the guy playing the violin as the most prominent thing on the picture. Very odd for Dead City or a Walking Dead promo in general, I think. I don't know if it's related to Beth, but just seeing how much in general all the shows seem to be incorporating music as a much more prominent aspect than before is interesting to me. Yeah, so here's the poster. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with your analysis there. It's really... I mean, I could say a few things about this. Okay, man, maybe you don't want to get me started. So the biggest thing as pertains to Beth is that the music is prominent. But remember that in this episode, this guy was very much a parallel for Beth, not only because of the music and then he got killed, but he even fell with his arm out in the same way Beth did. So he was 1,000% supposed to be a Beth proxy. I think it's interesting that his death was such a huge... internal character thing for Negan. So in a way, you could almost parallel Negan to Daryl here, because it was Daryl that was so affected by Beth's death. And obviously Negan and this guy were not romantically involved or anything like that, but this guy was cut down right in front of Negan in this space that was like mostly white, that was kind of like Grady, like it had that kind of, it was a church in this case, but kind of that sterile feel. Anyway, so yeah, it's interesting. And then I think it's interesting that in the poster we have this, in the right hand side, we've got Maggie and Herschel hugging. I mean, this is very much, I feel like this poster is very much about betrayal. See, we have the boat over here on the left side, and the reason... I want to say his name was Victor. I'm not sure if that's right. The reason the violin guy got killed is because Negan hesitated to fire on the boat because he was trying to save Herschel. Meanwhile, Herschel is in some way betraying Maggie and the group because he's working for the Dama. You see what I mean? So it's all... This is like a really well put together poster in terms of the themes and what's going on in the plot. So yeah, that's super interesting. But all of it, at least thematically and in terms of the symbolism, does apply to Beth and does apply to Grady. And it's almost like they're retelling it, only they're using the template and just applying it to Negan's story here and Maggie's story. So yeah, I had not seen that before. That's actually a really beautiful poster. I like it. So thanks for sending that in. Super interesting. Oh, guys, one thing I forgot to talk about from Dead City, and this is actually huge. I'm so glad I remembered this. I just glanced down at my notes. So remember the historian guy that the Dama is now like carting around to record her history and write about it? I didn't pick this up when I was first watching it, but then when I went back to get screenshots, I saw it and I was like, oh, how did I miss that? Okay, look at this picture. This guy is being carted around in the trunk, and he's wearing a yellow jacket, bright yellow jacket. I mean, you guys, this is just freaking ridiculous. I mean, look at this comparison picture to 5:10 when Maggie found the walker in the trunk, which was more or less confirmed to be a symbol of Beth, just because of some of the commentary that the actors made. And the positioning is exactly the same. Okay, so the previous episode, the guy with the violin, I think his name was Victor, he died. I talked about that. And, he was similar to Beth in that his arm fell when he hit the ground, the same as hers did in Coda. Now we have this guy in the trunk laying in exactly the same position as Beth was in and wearing yellow. I mean, you guys, you cannot tell me this is not a thing, okay? Here it is, just laid out for everybody. There it is. So that's a big deal and something that I completely forgot to talk about in my original video. The other thing is I couldn't remember his name, so thanks to WD Way for supplying his name for me. It is Benjamin. And we're not exactly sure what to make of that. This is a repeat name. So the other Benjamin we saw that we're aware of is Henry's older brother. So Henry is the one that Carol and Ezekiel adopted and took care of. He died in season 9, thanks to the Whisperers. He was one of the people who had his head put on a pike. And before that, it was during All Out War, so it would have been seasons 7 and 8. His older brother, Benjamin, was hanging out with Morgan. And then Benjamin got killed in one of the brush-ups with the Saviors. And it wasn't even so much that his arc had tons in common with Beth. It was more the way he died. So the only thing I really remember about his arc, he was Morgan's friend. I remember at one point he asked Carol to teach him how to defend himself and kill walkers better. He wanted to learn from her, and she was she shut him down, and she wasn't interested in teaching him at all. She was still kind of reeling from Sam's death and didn't want to take on any more young people and accidentally get them killed. So she was pretty harsh with him. But you could compare that to Beth wanting to learn the crossbow. I mean, he just wanted to learn more about how to defend himself. But the big thing that I remember about Benjamin is that when he died, there was some definite Grady symbolism going on. It was this thing where, Richard, who was a side character, you may or may not remember him, he hid one of the cantaloupes because he specifically wanted the Saviors to get mad and say that they had shorted the Saviors on what they were supposed to give them supply-wise, because he was trying to start a fight. He was trying to start a war. Now, he did not mean to get Benjamin killed. He was hoping that they would attack him, and he was willing to die to get this war started so that he could kind of free his people, as it were. You know, that's what he was trying to do. But unfortunately, as so often happens in cases like those, everything went wrong. It was Benjamin that got shot. They took him to Morgan's house. They could not save him. He bled out. But what I remember is that Morgan went back and he found the cantaloupe that had been purposely hidden by Richard. He figured out that Richard did it on purpose. And the cantaloupe was under this yellow bin. So I just remember thinking, okay, yellow is a kind of a weird color to put this plastic bin. You would think it would be black or even blue or red, or, you know what I mean? It's a very intentional choice to make it yellow. And there was something hidden there, something they couldn't see. And so it just felt like, you know, it wasn't exact, but sort of a twist or a play on the Grady symbolism, because we know that yellow is a Beth color. She was wearing yellow. There was hidden things going on there that we couldn't understand. They led to her death. And in Beth's case, it's like, quote unquote death, right? Benjamin really did die, and we don't think Beth did, but there was just a lot of weirdness, and I felt like there was purposeful symbolism going on there. So anyway, all I'm trying to say is that was before, in season 7, I believe it was season 7, and now we have a second Benjamin, and he is wearing yellow, and he's being put in the trunk of a car. So that's pretty huge, and I just wanted to make sure and point that out so that everybody could see it. All right, guys, I'm over 20 minutes, so I'm going to call it there, but I'm going to try to get one more video out before the next episode drops. Wish me luck. Thank you so much for sending in all of your asks and your thoughts and anything that I missed. I really appreciate it, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye.